Namaste viewers, I am Shweta Singh from Government College Badalpur and I am going to present on the topic The Palace of Illusions by Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, a retelling of the Mahabharata from Draupadi's perspective. What happens when an epic that has always been told through the voices of men is retold by a woman who was central to its conflict, yet marginalized in its narration? What if Draupadi, remembered merely as a wife, a queen, and a victim, were allowed to speak in her own voice? Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni's The Palace of Illusions answers these questions by retelling the Mahabharata from Draupadi's perspective, transforming an ancient epic into a powerful modern narrative of identity, resistance, and womanhood. The Palace of Illusions, published in 2008, is a feminist retelling of the Indian epic Mahabharata. Unlike traditional versions that foreground heroic male figures such as Arjuna, Yudhishthir, or Krishna, this novel places Draupadi, also known as Panchali, at the center of the narrative. Divakaruni reimagines the epic not as a story of divine destiny and male heroism, but as a deeply personal account of a woman negotiating power, desire, injustice, and silence in a patriarchal world. The novel blends mythology with modern sensibility, allowing Draupadi to reflect, question, and even challenge the values that shaped her life. Draupadi's story begins not with a childhood, but with fire. Born from the sacrificial flames of King Draupad's yajna, Draupadi enters the world already burdened with destiny. She is not born out of love or choice, but as a weapon of vengeance, meant to destroy her father's enemies. This unusual birth immediately raises questions about identity. Draupadi is denied a normal origin, and from the very beginning, her body and existence serve political and patriarchal purposes. Yet, Divakaruni's Draupadi is intensely self-aware. She resists being defined only by prophecy and male ambition, longing instead for autonomy and self-definition. One of the most striking features of the Palace of Illusions is its first-person narration. Draupadi is not merely a character being observed. She is a storyteller. Through her voice, readers gain access to her private thoughts, suppressed desires, fears, and frustrations. This narrative choice challenges the authoritative, male-dominated versions of the epic. Events such as her marriage, the dice game, and her humiliation in the royal court are no longer distant spectacles. They become lived experiences of pain and resistance. By allowing Draupadi to narrate her own life, Divakaruni restores agency to a woman who was long spoken about but rarely heard. Draupadi's marriage is one of the most controversial aspects of the Mahabharata, and Divakaruni reinterprets it with emotional depth and critical insight. Forced into polyandry with the 5 Pandav brothers, Draupadi's consent is never truly considered. Her body becomes a site of compromise, obedience, and sacrifice in the name of duty and social order. The novel exposes the hypocrisy of patriarchy, where male desires are normalized, but female emotions are suppressed. Draupadi questions why Dharma demands her silence while allowing man moral flexibility. Her inner resistance highlights the emotional cost of a system that values honor over humanity. The Palace of Illusions is fundamentally a feminist text. It does not reject tradition outright, but interrogates it, asking whose voices were preserved and whose were erased. Draupadi emerges as a woman who thinks, desires, questions, and refuses to accept injustice quietly. Her anger in the dice hall, her refusal to internalize shame, and her constant questioning of destiny reflect a modern feminist consciousness within an ancient setting. Divakaruni reclaims Draupadi not just as a mythological figure but as a symbol of women who struggle against imposed rules and silenced suffering even today. The dice game episode is the emotional and ideological core of the Palace of Illusions. In the Mahabharata, the dice game is often treated as a political mistake or a tragic turning point in royal history. However, in Divakaruni's retelling, it becomes a deeply personal experience of humiliation, rage, and awakening for Draupadi. As Yudhishthir gambles away his kingdom, his brothers, and finally Draupadi herself, the novel exposes the brutal reality of patriarchy, where a woman can be treated as property without her consent. Draupadi's voice during this episode is sharp and questioning. She asks the famous unsettling question: was I lost before or after my husband lost himself? This question challenges the very foundations of dharma and male authority. The dice hall becomes not just a court of kings, but a courtroom where patriarchy stands accused. Draupadi's refusal to accept shame transforms her from a victim into a moral force, one whose anger ultimately fuels the epic's war. One of the most modern aspects of the Palace of Illusions is its honest portrayal of female desire. Traditional versions of the epic rarely acknowledge Draupadi's emotional or romantic needs. Divakaruni, however, presents her as a woman capable of longing, attraction, disappointment, and emotional conflict. Draupadi's unspoken love for Karna is central to this theme. Though bound by social rules and destiny, she is actually aware of the life she might have lived had choices, not prophecies, guided her fate. This forbidden attraction is not portrayed as moral failure but as emotional truth. It humanizes Draupadi, reminding readers that epic heroines are not ideals carved in stone, but women shaped by desire and regret. Through this lens, love becomes both a source of strength and suffering, intensely personal yet tightly controlled by social norms. The Palace of Illusions is a significant example of Indian popular literature. While rooted in classical mythology, the novel uses simple language, emotional storytelling, and a first person narrative to reach a wide readership. It bridges the gap between high classical texts and contemporary popular fiction. Divakaruni retells an ancient epic in a way that is accessible, engaging, and emotionally resonant, especially for modern readers unfamiliar with the complexities of the Mahabharata. Themes such as gender inequality, female agency, desire, and injustice connect the epic past with present social realities. This relevance is a defining feature of popular literature. By giving Draupadi a voice that sounds contemporary yet remains rooted in myth, Divakaruni ensures that the story speaks not just to scholars but to common readers, making an epic meaningful in the modern world. In retelling the Mahabharata through Draupadi's eyes, Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni transforms an epic of war into a narrative of voice, memory, and resistance. The Palace of Illusions reminds us that history and mythology are not fixed, they change when perspectives change. Draupadi's story, once overshadowed by heroic battles, now stands as a powerful testament to the enduring struggle for dignity, identity, and justice. Thank you so much. And if you like my video, please subscribe it.